Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
You know, it's funny. I talk often about Bitcoin, and everybody's obsessed with it. And they check it 3 times a day, which is no doubt we share this. It's just insane. But what are they trying to do? They're trying to double their money, right? And it's like, you know, whatever it's at. I don't even know what it's at, but let's assume $35,000 as we record. It's got to get to 70. And if, as you listen, you know, it's 50,000, it's got to get to 100 grand for you to double your money. You got zero control. So like I've got rules around investing, and I look for a 5-time multiple on any investment. And my logic, rightly, wrongly, I can be right 20% of the time, and I do all right. My question for you, and no doubt, again, business owners should be investing. A business owner investing in Bitcoin, again, unless you got one heck of a business, it's lunacy, right? Because they should be investing in staff, investing in products. My question for you is there a yield that you look for when you take an expense and you put it on your P&L? Is there a number you have in mind?
No.
No?
Oh, well, I said that too quickly. If I'm going to make a capital investment, I want it, meaning I'm about to spend money on a piece of equipment or a vehicle or something like that, a capital investment versus a operating investment.
Yep.
Then so this is going to be really rough. I'd like to be able to see an opportunity to get my bait back, to get my investment back within a year. Mm-hmm. That's a very broad rule of thumb. There's some stuff that I will make an investment and I know it's going to take a lot longer than that. There's others that I know it's going to take a lot less than that. There's all kinds of exceptions to what I just said, and I would hate for you or anybody else to walk out of here with that as a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
I'm asking the question, if I invest this money, is there an opportunity for me to make more than the investment cost? Mm-hmm. And how long is it until I break even? If I can get to break even on this, then everything else, I've got my money back, and everything else is upside.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly add, and this will be really controversial, but I'm going to add something as a footnote to your comment on the piece on expenses. With my people, with my employees, I'm trying to figure out how they can make more money, not less. If someone comes to me for a raise, then I'm evaluating what they're doing and how that yield on them is impacting my profitability. And if we're in equilibrium right now, so the amount I'm paying you and the amount that you're producing is equal, then why should I give you more money? If you want to make more money, contribute more value. Do more so that you can earn more. I have employees that have worked for me for 15 years, literally, that have not had a raise of any kind. And now they make good money, but the amount they do and the amount they earn are congruent. They're aligned. So I'm rooting for my employees to make more money by doing more, adding more value, hitting their standards, being A players, going to training, reading books, taking courses. Every time I get asked, can I have a raise? My first answer is, of course. Of course you can. How many books have you read in the last year that are allowing you to be better at your job? How many courses have you attended? How many seminars have you been to? What's in your library? What are you listening to besides streaming music? What are you doing to get better? Because my outcome for every single employee is that they make a ton. In fact, when I hire new employees, if they tell me they want to make $40,000 a year, I'm going to design a job that allows them to make $43,000 a year from day one. The mistake that we make as business owners is we hire someone and we try to figure out how little we can pay them from day one.
Yeah.
That's stupid. What I want to do is design a job and some outcomes and some deliverables that more than justify the incremental compensation, because when I hire you, what I want you to do is to stop looking for a job. I want you to leave Monster alone. Get off of LinkedIn. Come to work for me. What kills me is if I hire you, I'd figure out how to nickel and dime you for 90 days or a first year, whatever that is. I don't want to do that. There hadn't been a single person, not one exception to this rule. And I've had thousands of employees in the last 40 years. There's not one where I said, let me figure out how little I can pay you.
Yeah.
There's not one where I said, let me pay you less than you're asking. If I can't design a job that justifies more than you're asking from day one, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah. It's funny how it's psychology. It's a mindset you just described. And they've got the wrong mindset. Okay, so that leads me. There's a question that I wanted to ask in relation to the income statement. So the two most profitable things you can do with an income statement is common size and then break down revenue per square inch like Walmart does. Can you explain and possibly go deeper on this for me? Like, so we're not Walmart, our clients aren't Walmart. What can the smaller guy do with that little bit of knowledge?
Great. I'm going to fix your question before I start. These are not the most profitable things you could do, but these are the things you could do that will give you the most clarity.
Love it.
So, common size for an income statement is simply converting all the expenses from dollars to percentages. So if I have revenue of $1,000 and my wages and salaries are $200, I'll see an income statement that says, one income statement says, all right, Keith, you had $1,000 of revenue and you had $200 of wages. Then I'll see another income statement for the same month that says, Keith, your revenues were 100%. That's revenues are always 100%, or you could say revenues are 1,000, and your salaries and wages were 20% of revenue. Now, what's important about that is that I be able to compare this time period's dollars and percentages with prior time periods, dollars and percentages. And if over the course of the last 6 months, my wages as a percentage of revenue were $150, 15%, and now all of a sudden my wages as a percentage of revenue are $200 or 20%, that means my profit, my EBITDA, my operating profit is shrinking as a percentage of revenue. So I'm a huge believer in saying, look, I don't care how big your top line is. What I want to know is what percentage of that top line are you converting to your bottom line by controlling your expenses. And different industries have different benchmarks. So some industries, if you can get 4% of your revenue into profits, if you're in the grocery store business, you're rich. 4%. You are one of the wealthiest people. You have so much money you've started buying banks.
Yeah.
And that's with 4% of revenue. There's other businesses. I'm taking a sip. There's other industries where if you're under 30% profit as a percentage of revenue, you got problems. So the range is very wide. If you ask me, I'd say the average small business converts about 20 to 25% of their revenue into profits. But I can't just look at dollars. I need a percentage, and that's what Common Size does. Yeah. There's much more on this in a book called The Ultimate Blueprint for an Insanely Successful Business. And if you want some easily digested information around this idea of common size or financial analysis, that book will do it. The Ultimate Blueprint for an Insanely Successful Business. So this idea of common sizing has meaning because but only has meanings if I have something to compare it to, which is my prior time periods. Some businesses are cyclical, so I got to compare June of this year or Q3 of this year with June or Q3 of last year. Maybe it's not cyclical and I can compare June of this year with May of this year versus April of this year. So I began to see a trend of what's going on. And I'm asking myself the question, am I getting better or worse? So let me give you an example so that people can actually get this. If I went to the doctor for the first time I'd ever been to see a doctor, and let's suppose I weighed 350 pounds. The first thing the doctor should do is say, how much did you weigh a year ago? Because if a year ago I weighed 750 pounds and I'm now down to 350, we're about to have a parade. There's going to be a huge celebration. But if a year ago I weighed 200 and now I weigh 350, now I get a talking to. I get a spanking by my doctor because that didn't work. I'm on the wrong trend. Either way, I weigh 350. What's critical is what happened before. Am I going the right direction? Or is this ship lost at sea and I'm about to drown? And the only way I know that is if I have something to compare to. So common size is a percentage. There's another metric, another way to view an income statement. And that would be if you said my revenue per unit, my wages per unit, my utilities per unit. In the car wash business, we used labor per car. We said, what are our chemicals per car? What is our revenue per car? What's our profit per car? What's our insurance per car? What's our employee benefits per car? And when we were all said and done, what we were looking at is something that's digestible. So if I'm looking at an income statement and it says, well, my revenue, my wages were $10,000 and this month, and my employee benefits were $2,000, and I need to know that, but it'd be great to know what percentage that was of revenue. And what would be really great is if I knew what those expenses and revenue were per unit. So not everybody has cars, a car wash.
Yep.
Maybe your revenue per unit is per customer. So what is my average revenue per customer? What's my labor per customer? What's my employee benefits? How much of my utilities per customer? And what is my profitability per customer? Now, if I get all done and I say, well, my profitability per customer is $100. Now I can ask myself the question, what needs to happen for my profitability per customer to go from 100 to 110? What do I need to do in order to grow my profitability? And now I can look at my income statement and say, well, Keith, you're spending $40 a customer on cost of goods sold. Is there a way for you to only spend $38 a customer? Is there a way for you to trim some expense, or is there a way for you to increase your prices? Or is there a way for you to add a few more customers? I don't need thousands. I just need a couple more that moves the needle from 100 per customer to 110. How do I do that? Maybe it's not per customer. Maybe it's per billable hour. Maybe it's per in the seminar world, in the teaching world, which I happen to be a part of. You do too. We have metrics that show us what our revenue is and what our expenses are. That's one income statement. Then we have another income statement that says, well, here's what all of our expenses are as a percentage of revenue, which means our profitability as a percentage of revenue is X, and we want it to go up by 10%. How could we do that? And then we have another income statement that says, well, what is our revenue per customer? Now, I'm not going to use seminar for this example. I'll use car washes. Our average customer in the car wash business pays us $62 per customer. Now, there's some customers that only spend $15, and there's other customers who spend, check this out, $1,800. So we got a very wide range, $15 to $1,800. And we have a certain number of customers during a month, a quarter, or a year. Well, what's the average per customer? If you would have asked me 10 years ago, our average revenue per customer at 10 years ago was probably $40. Today is $62. Our prices have not gone up. Now hear this. Our prices have not gone up. Instead, we've added products and services that moves the average customer up.
Yeah.
I'm paying attention to revenue, but I'm also paying attention to revenue per customer. I'm paying attention to my expenses and my profitability, but I'm also paying attention to my expenses and profitability on a per unit basis. Different industries have different units. Walmart measures the square foot. So they measure revenue on a per square foot basis. And that's how they decide to give an extra foot of space to Coca-Cola and take it away from Diet Dr. Pepper. They figured out that on a per square foot basis, they're better off with an extra foot of shelf space going to this brand, and we're going to take it away from another brand so that we raise the total on a per square foot basis. It's extraordinary, unbelievably powerful, because it gives you insight, analysis, and clarity. And that's all I'm looking for. When I get financial statements, I'm looking for insight. I'm looking for a treasure map that has a big red X right in the middle of it. And the red X says, dig here, dummy. This is where you dig. This is where the gold is. Don't dig over there. Dig right here, because this is where we buried the gold. So I'm looking for insight. I'm looking for optics so I can see. Let me give you an example of this. This is so powerful. If I ask you, Karl, to visualize the route from where you live to the grocery store you normally go to, you could visualize that route. You can do it right now, sitting right where you are right now. You could say, yeah, I'd back out of my driveway, I'd go down here, I'd go 2 blocks, come to a stop sign, turn right, go 3 more blocks, hit a stoplight, turn left. Yeah, I mean, you could trace it in your mind.
Yeah.
If I blindfolded you and asked you to drive from your home to the grocery store, there is a 100% probability that you would have a wreck. Not because you didn't know the way, but because you couldn't see. So what I want is clarity. I want optics. I want analysis. It's not the number on the page that's important. It's that number on the page in comparison to, as a percentage of, in relationship to another number on that page. And if I can begin to understand how to get clarity with my financial statements, all of which is stuff that you've heard me teach in the 4-day MBA. Right? That's why I teach that course, is How do I grow my business and make more money? That's all anybody wants to know. How do I grow it and make more money and be less of an operator? Okay, well, good. I can teach you how to do that.
I love it. Can I jump in? Because I got a couple.
Yeah. This
First
is
of all,
great.
everybody take away, what's that saying? I'll probably make a meal of it, but if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I want you to listen to the way Keith talks and the number of, his scoreboard is incredibly complex. But the good soda, you're probably not an accountant if you're listening to this, so just be gentle with yourself and you can let your scoreboard, I'm sure Keith's scoreboard that he will look at today with his car wash be significantly more robust than when he started, right? So be gentle and you'll get there. But do understand, without a scoreboard, if I play you tennis, I'm probably going to kick your butt if I'm keeping score and you're not, right? I want to actually, can I ask you a question a little bit off the cuff? You've sold your car washes, I understand it. I'm going to take a stab because I'm just curious and learning for those listening. I'm going to take a stab and say that you I always talk about mental models and the power of it. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, they're, famous for saying, I want to know where I'm going to die so that I don't go there. Would that have had something to do with the fact, I personally see a lot less car ownership in the future? Would that be part of your reasoning behind exiting, or a little bit?
Absolutely. I think there's some trends that are problematic. I think less car ownership. I think fewer cars. I think transportation as a service.
Yeah.
40%. Check this out. This is a breathtaking statistic to me. 40% of people 16 to 25 do not have a driver's license.
What?
When I was 16 years old, on my birthday, I went and got my driver's license. Everybody I knew did. It was the thing you did. And today, it's a different world. So, I think there's a problem with labor in that business that is going to continue to be more and more acute. I think there's a problem with demand in that business. We haven't seen it. It's not knocking on the door today, but there's a train on the track and it's headed in that direction. And I don't know how to dodge that train. Mm-hmm. And so I will say that we are at a biblical time in our economy in terms of the amount of money that's chasing good deals, and therefore the valuations on those good deals. There's very few businesses that are exitable. I think a mistake that business owners make is they start obsessing about an exit strategy, which is insane. The problem, there's only 3 strategies. You're either going to sell it, you're going to give it to your kids, or you're going to shut it down. That's it. Yeah. So I don't need to spend a lot of time talking about what's my strategy and exit strategy. Instead, I should be obsessing about the exitability if I want to think about that. What needs to happen so that this thing is exitable? And there's a whole nother course that I teach on that called How to Buy an Exit. So a business. So look, I think that yes, I think there are changes that are out there that sometimes dictate now's a good time to think about raking some chips off the table. The problem I got now is I now got this big wad of money that I got to figure out what to do with so that I get an income or a return that approximates what I just sold. And that turns out to be a pretty good sized trick. Most people can't get the same return in the new thing that they're going to do after they exit the old thing. They'd be a lot better off figuring out how to build the old thing into a machine, and they become the owner instead of the operator. That's where the money is. All the money is in becoming the owner.
Yeah. Which is the difference between owner and operator is psychology, and that involves a lot of education, and it can be challenging and delayed gratification, and that's why they don't get there, right?
I think that's a lot of it. I think there's a skill set that comes with being an owner, and I think most people who are stuck in an operator, hair on fire, reactionary, whack-a-mole, people that are stuck there, they don't have a model and the skills to transition. It's not an event, it's a transition to transition over time into an owner.
Yeah.
Look, right now, with you, I'm an operator. Right now, you're an operator.
Yeah.
This is all based on time and effort, but it's not frantic. It's not reactionary. It's not a dumpster fire. But it requires my time and it requires your time. It's very low leverage, what you and I are doing right now. But I have another hat in my wardrobe that I can wear, which is called an artist hat, which I put on sometimes when I'm going to write a book or create a new course or go teach at Tony Robbins. And I've maybe put on an artist hat. I got another hat that's an owner hat. And I put it on. And then I'm an owner. And I start thinking about, okay, where's the leverage in this? Who do I delegate to? What's the structure? Who's on my team? How can I make this more efficient and more profitable?
I love it. Okay, so I've got another, speaking of being profitable, kind of sort of flows into this, but a lot of accountants have learned from you. You've probably forgotten more about accounting, I think, than 90% of the accountants out there. What would you say would be the biggest mistake accountants make when helping their small business clients?
One column of numbers.
Yeah.
When you get financial reports, which you should every month, I love to play golf. About 6 years, and I've been playing for a long, long time. And about 6 years ago, I was playing with a professional golfer named Tom Kite, who happens to live in Austin, which is where I live. He and I have known each other for years. And Tom asked me on the first tee, Keith, what's your handicap? That means, how do you normally do when you come out and play golf? How many strokes over par do you normally shoot? And I told Tom, well, I stopped keeping score, therefore I don't have a handicap, and I've found that I enjoy the game a lot more when I stop keeping score. So I don't have a handicap. Tom looked at me and said, well, so you're telling me you've decided to stop getting better? I said, no, I'm just telling you I'm not keeping score. Tom said, no, you're telling me you decided to stop getting better. So this idea of keeping score, financial score, is like really, really, really important. If you're going to keep financial score, then make sure you have multiple columns of numbers on an income statement so that it shows you not just this month and year to date. That's worthless. I want to see this month versus last month versus the month before, this quarter versus the last quarter versus the quarter before, this third quarter of this year versus third quarter of last year versus third quarter of the year before. I need something to compare it to, and one column of numbers means that you're doing your job as the accountant and are not helping me with optics and clarity and analysis. How can I analyze it if I don't have anything to compare it to? It's the 350-pound guy going to the doctor. Should we cheer or should we boo? We don't know, because we didn't know what happened the year before. So when you look at my income statements and my balance sheets and my statements of cash flow, you'll see sometimes 14, 15 columns of income statement. And the reason is because I need clarity on, is this machine that I've got getting better and more efficient, or there's some places where I need to tighten the lug nuts. I need to put a couple more PSI in the tires. It maybe the carburetor needs a little adjusting, because the machine is not producing at the rate that it once was. Or there's some problems someplace. There's a squeak, there's a rattle. I think the second problem accountants make is that they don't show, there's not a mechanism to help the owner understand how much personal yaya is getting allocated and paid for by the company. And there's ways to do that don't get you into trouble with the IRS. I'm all in favor of you doing whatever you want to do in the way of personal expenses paid for by your business. But you should have a clean set of optics that shows you, here's how your business really did before you decided to soak it. I had a guy come to a board meeting. This probably been 12, 15 years ago. He had $3 million in revenue. He showed up at his first meeting, brought his financial statements, and he has negative 100,000 of profits. I said, how can this be? He said, well, my biggest problem, Keith, is I got to grow the business so that I have more revenue so that I can make some money off this thing. It's like I don't have enough revenue in order to make money. And he said, $3 million a year. I said, Omar, how much of your personal crap is being paid for by this company? And he didn't have it broken out. We started making a list. He's got his wife on the payroll. He's got his kids on the payroll. He's got automobiles. Hell, he took a vacation to New Zealand, and it was baked into his financial. His wife's watch for birthday. Apparently she got a watch for birthday, and he wrote it off as employee of the month, right? So he's got, and by the time we backed all that personal yaya out, he's making $900,000 a year. So the problem was not the profitability of the business. The problem is he was a little piggy that was in the trough eating his business. And that's why his business had problems. So I think, look, I mean, there's other stuff that I think you could do, like common size that we talked about it earlier, percentages, or look, I think a lot of people ignore their balance sheet. And a balance sheet is one of the 3 dials that accountants have that should be in an owner's cockpit that they ought to be watching, right? How's the income statement? How's the balance sheet? And how's our cash? And if I've got clarity on those 3 things, I'm unlikely to hit a mountain. I'll give it to you this way. Every one of us has seen a sign in front of a building that says going out of business. We've all seen that sign.
No.
The reason the guy is going out of business has very little to do with whether or not it was or wasn't a good idea. It's not the idea that's important. The idea is worth 1%. You don't believe me? Go get a patent and license it to somebody else. They'll pay you 1 or 2% of revenue. That's all an idea is worth. So it's not that it was a bad idea. It's not that the owner was down to a 4-hour work week, which is probably one of the worst ideas I've ever heard in my entire life. Name me somebody who is successful who got that way with doing the minimum amount of work. I suspect when you see a going out of business, you're looking at somebody who's been putting in 18-hour days while the thing was dying of some undiagnosed tumor. You're not looking at somebody who lacked passion. That's not why they're going out of business. They're going out of business because something went wrong that they couldn't see. Or once they saw it, it had metastasized and it was too late. That's why when we go to the doctor, the very first thing every doctor does, internist, right? Not a ortho, but and very first thing they do, they take your blood, you pee in a bottle, they send all that liquid off, and they come back with test results that allow you to see under the hood what's going on that the doc can't see. Because it's the stuff, here it comes, the stuff you can't see is what kills you.
Yeah.
If you could see it, you turn the steering wheel, you tap the brakes. The stuff you can't see is the stuff that you ought to be figuring out. How do I get some clarity? How do I get some optics? How do I get some analysis so that I don't wind up with bony fingers? I don't mind working my fingers to the bone, but I want to get rich in the process.
Yeah.
That means I need optics. I need clarity. I need some financial analysis. Okay, that was a long answer. I'm going to turn it back to you, Carl.
I love it. So, and I want to make sure, so you're recommending effectively like your client that was actually making $900,000. He thought that he had an unprofitable business. The real problem was his wife's watch and the shoes and what you describe as pimping out his stuff, right? He's blowing money left, right, and center. So you think that 2 sets of books, is that the way you see it?
Yeah. So thank you. What we recommend is it's not really 2 sets of books. The way to think about it is above the line and below the line. So there's some personal expenses that you're having your business pay for, and I should identify those expenses and move them below the line for purposes of my monthly financial analysis. And then when it's time to tell the IRS how I did, or your taxing authority,
Yeah.
then you move all those expenses back above the line. And so Omar would be able to say, okay, you know what? My business is actually making $900,000 a year, but it's when it's time to tell the government how much he's making, so that he can then say, here's how much I owe in taxes. He can say, all right, look, I had a loss of 100,000. So I'm not trying to advise or not advise on what you should do with your reporting to the government. I'm instead saying have an above the line and below the line set of optics. And, with Omar, I'm going to help you grow your business. but I'm not going to help you grow your business because it didn't make any money. I'm going to help you grow your business so it can make more money.
Yeah.
Because it's already making a ton of money.
Yeah. The piggy's in the trough. I love it. I love it. Okay, speaking of the piggy being in the trough, what are some secrets around delaying accounts payable? And I dare say that anybody listening, there's a good chance that you don't understand the importance of this. So, what are some secrets around delaying accounts payable and the importance of doing so?
So, there's money that is either in your bank or it's in someone else's bank.
Yeah.
If you have accounts payable, chances are you also have something that rhymes with a bookkeeper, somebody that pays your bills. And bookkeepers have a job, and part of their job is to pay the bills. So oftentimes the bills come in, and the bookkeeper trying to do his or her job will get busy and do their job and pay the bills within 3 days or 5 days or 7 days. And as a result, that money is no longer in your bank account. It's in someone else's bank account. Now, if you can figure out how to keep it in your bank account for an extra 20 days, and there's one exception. If you're being offered a discount for paying your bills quickly, do that. That is one of the great, well, it's one of the biggest mistakes owners make in an effort to collect their money quicker is they offer a discount. So suppose you have a business that has 20% profitability, and suppose you offer customers a 5% discount for paying their bill early. You've just whacked your profit by 25%.
Yeah.
Your profits went from 20% to 15%, which is a 25% reduction in profitability because you're trying to collect your money quicker. But so if you have someone stupid enough to offer you a discount for paying your bills early, do that. But otherwise, pay your bills within 25 to 30 days. And if you do that, then that cash is in your bank account instead of someone else's bank account, and it improves your cash flow. Now, this is a whole different subject. It's way more involved than what I can do right now. But in a nutshell, let me say that for your business, if you're listening to me and you have a business, when your accounts payable go up month over month, that's good for your cash flow. When your inventory, on the other hand, goes up, if you happen to be in a business that has inventory, when your inventory goes up from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, that's bad for your cash flow. And here it comes. If your accounts receivable go up from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, then that's bad for your cash flow. So there's three categories on a balance sheet that we should be paying attention to, because these three categories directly impact the amount of cash flow that the business produces. And those three categories are accounts receivable. Are they going up or down? Up is bad, down is good for cash. Inventory, if you happen to be in that kind of business, inventory going up is bad, down is good. You can draw little arrows, little happy faces and little frowny faces. Accounts receivable, frown. Inventory, frown. Accounts payable, that's a happy face for cash. Now, it can't go up to 25 days and then back down to 7 the next month. When it does that, you've just given all that money back because it's in someone else's account and not yours. So the Apple computer, we'll just, this is a big company, but you can learn something by learning what big companies do. Apple computer collects its revenue in 18 days. So their AR, accounts receivable, are 18 days. They pay their bills to their suppliers in 90 days. So if they're collecting their money in 16 days and they're paying their bills in 90 days, they've got a huge slug of cash on their balance sheet. Right now, it's at $250 billion. They've got a huge chunk of cash on their balance sheet because they're in the cockpit of their plane looking at the dials, making it as efficient as possible. Now, here's the third metric. Apple Computer has, now this is a business that has, 150, 200 billion of revenue. I don't even know how big it is now. They have 4 days of inventory. 4. So think about it. Their AR is very low. That's good for cash. Their inventory is astronomically low. That's good for cash. And their accounts payable are huge. Now, they get to have 90 days because they're Apple, right? Most of us don't have the luxury of paying our bills within 90 days, but you should find out what the outside limit is. You don't want to be unfair. I want to pay my vendors. I want to pay my vendors on time. I don't want to pay them late. If they're going to be stupid and offer me a discount, sure, I'll take your money. But I want to be fair. I'm going to pay my bills so that when I call my vendor and say, I need something, I need some help, I want them to help me and feel like I'm a good customer. I'll give you a great example of this. As you might imagine, I've got a lot of helpers. Accountants, lawyers, all those kind of people, right? Wealth man, I got a lot of helpers. And my rule with them is very simple. When I call you, my expectation is you're going to return my call within 24 hours. Because I need something. And for every hour that you delay in returning my call after 24 hours, I'm going to delay paying your next bill by a week. So you delay 5 hours? Okay, you can do that, but I'm not going to pay your bill for 5 weeks. That's my rule. And guess what? I get return telephone calls the same day. Always. There are no exceptions. Because these people know that I pay my bills. Now, that's an instance where my accounts payable on those kind of guys is only 1 day because I need something in return. So I want to be fair. I want to make sure that I'm, I don't want to be a bad customer. I don't want to pay my bills too soon. But if I can keep the money in my bank account and keep it there, then that improves my cash flow, which is good for me.
Yeah. Love it. I want to what you're describing, there's a lot of businesses out there who say, like, according to their accountants and their financials, that they're very profitable. But at the end of the month, the question is, where is my cash? Right. So this is where accounts payable and the instance, and think about Apple, 18 days to collect and 90 days to pay. And they've only got $250 billion. They can afford to pay some bills, right? But they don't, because they have optics and they run their business with rules. And it doesn't matter if they have 100 billion, 250 billion, if they have 500 billion, they'll abide by those rules. So I think you might like this, Keith. I have this thing that I call sweetheart syndrome. So that's the business owner that has an accounts receivable problem, right? They never collect their money because they don't want to bother anyone. And then they never want to owe anybody money, so they pay all their bills on time, right? And then they just think about the gap, right? Sweetheart syndrome. And then they wonder where their cash is. And like when you play Monopoly, you go out of business for one reason and one reason only. Nobody runs out of ideas. Nobody runs out of long-term potential. They run out of cash, right? And same with Monopoly. You go to bed when you run out of cash. So sweetheart syndrome is something that I often talk about.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that leads me into the next question. So you've got an accounts receivable problem is an insanely common. Okay. And for everybody listening, I want you to take that away. Okay. Don't just trust us on this one. When you go to these business owners, there's a good chance that you just have to cure their accounts receivable problem, and you're going to find all of your coaching fees for the entire year plus, plus, plus. But Keith, so accounts receivable being a problem, you have a great strategy for getting accounts receivable paid faster. Could you explain that for me and for us listening?
Yes. I think my experience is that people that have an accounts receivable problem have a generally uncommunicated set of expectations and guardrails that will ensure that they're paid on time. So what I like to tell customers is this. I'm thrilled that I have the opportunity to do this work, this job for you. You're exactly the kind of customer that I want. And my commitment to you is to do the job on time, on budget, to your expectations. I don't want to have to beg for my money any more than you want to have to beg me to do the job. So I'd like for us to agree that I'm going to do the job and you're not going to have to beg me to do it. And when I send you my invoice, I'm not going to have to beg you to pay it. There's a time frame that you have an expectation on this job. And there's a time frame that I have an expectation on being paid. And that time frame is 15 days, 20 days, 30 days, whatever it is. And I can't be your bank. I'm not set up to be your bank. I'm not going to charge you interest for being late. I'm not a bank. I do a job, and then my expectation is to be paid on time. And my payment terms are fill in the blank. Can we have an agreement? And the agreement is that I'm going to do what you're paying me to do, and then you're going to pay me when I send you a bill. And I'm not going to have to beg to get my money. And you're not going to have to beg to get the job done. Can we have that agreement? Now, they're either going to say yes or they're going to say no. If they say no, then now's an opportunity for you to say, okay, well, if what I need it to look like is not what you're willing to do, then what needs to shift here? Are you telling me that 30 days is not possible because you don't pay your employees every 2 weeks? Are you telling me that you go 75 days without paying your light bill? Are you telling me that your landlord will go 4 months without collecting rent? I'm no different than any one of those people.
Yeah.
I have an expectation to be paid on time, just like your employees, just like your landlord, just like the insurance company, just like the light, the utilities. You write checks every 2 weeks. Why not write me one? I've done the job. Don't make me beg. So if it isn't 30 days, what do you tell me? It needs to be 32 days? Let's just get crystal clear on the terms, because neither one of us have to beg.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of 35 days, they won't have paid their bill. That's how they're used to doing business. And so now's the opportunity for me to call and say, we had an agreement. I kept up my end of the bargain, and now I find myself having to beg for my money. And usually, 9 times out of 10, that guilt complex that comes about as a result of them breaching a prior agreement will cause them to move your receivable, their payable, to the top of the stack. Now, there's something else I do, which is if I have somebody that's chronically late in paying bills, oftentimes those bills are sitting on a bookkeeper's desk. And that bookkeeper, accountant, gets to choose which bills get paid this week. And so frequently I've gotten to know the accounts payable person for this company. Their payables are my receivables. I've gotten to know this accounts payable person because I've had to call so many times. And so I'll send her a Starbucks card, or I'll send her a vase of flowers. And all it says is, thank you for helping me. That's all it says. And next time I have a problem on getting paid on time, I simply reach out to the accounts payable person that I've sent a Starbucks card or a vase of flowers to, and I'd say, Evelyn, it's Keith. I need some help. I need a miracle. Evelyn, can you find my invoice and move it to the top of the stack and get it sent out today? I'm jammed up, and I really appreciate everything you do for me. And guess what? A miracle happens because Evelyn likes me. I'm good to Evelyn. Now, you may not want to do that. You may not want to have the speech, or you may not want to try to cozy up to Evelyn. But I'll put this on a bumper sticker. I'll put it on 2 bumper stickers. And then Carl, I'm sorry, I saw Brian and Carl. I'm probably pretty close to being to the end here, but I'll put it on 2 bumper stickers, and this may be a great way to close this off, which I really have appreciated and have had a great time. Here's 2 bumper stickers to take away. You get what you tolerate. You get what you tolerate. You tolerate people paying you late, you're going to get paid late. You tolerate mediocrity by your team, you're going to get mediocrity by your team. You tolerate people coming into the office 15 minutes late, you're going to get people coming into the office 15 minutes late. You tolerate accountants doing crappy work, you're going to get accountants doing crappy work. You get what you tolerate. That's always true. The second bumper sticker I'm going to leave you with is this. Nothing can change until the unspoken is said.
Oh.
Nothing can change. It won't change until the unspoken is said. And if I was going to put that on a bumper sticker, I would say that the most frequent cause of leadership failure boils down to one thing: a lack of courage. A lack of courage to say what needs to be said, a lack of courage to call it tight, a lack of courage to be thoughtful, a lack of courage to lead. I think most leaders think their job is to be liked. My job as a leader is not to be liked. My job as a leader is to be effective. My job as a leader is to be respected.
Yeah.
So, under the broad heading of you get what you tolerate, there's a subheading called accounts receivable. How much of that accounts receivable problem is part of a broader heading and is symptomatic of a bigger problem? Bigger problem is you get what you tolerate. Always.
A lack of, so like in a nutshell, I think what you just said is the business with an accounts receivable problem. It's really a problem of courage, a problem of leadership, a problem of somebody willing to communicate and step up and say what needs to be said. Fair?
I think that's it.
Yeah. Keith, I told everybody you were going to be a legend, and you did not let us down. Before I close up, I wanted to say one other thing. I've often talked about how a wealth hack is understanding percentages. I want you guys to take away that a lot of what Keith talked about and the way that he talked, percentages played a big part of that. So like an example, when you think of somebody's got 20% margins and then you take them to 30%, the untrained eye will look at that and say 10%, when in actuality it's 50%. You go from 2 to 3%, it looks like 1, not very sexy. It's actually a 50% improvement. That's a wealth hack. I knew that I was going to be listening to a lot of that, and I did. So I want you to take that away. But Keith, in closing, I will be there. You have an event August 5th to 8th. I'm paid up. I'm there. I'm booked. And again, can't wait to be there. But if you could, I'd like for you to just tell us a little bit. You've got 3 big courses / events that you teach. One is how to buy and exit a business. One is the 4-day MBA, which is fabulous. And then the other one is Planner Gets Slaughtered. Would you mind, could you fill everybody in on, they're going to want to follow you. They're going to want to learn from you. Could you help them with where to go and how to engage?
Yes, I thank you for that. The event coming up in actually a couple months is called How to Buy or Exit a Business. And I think that buying or exiting a business is simply flip sides of the same coin. I think starting a business is probably one of the hardest things that anyone can do. I think that buying a business, you've got cash flow and customers and systems and people and procedures. It's the difference between going to the airport to catch a flight and the flight that you go to the gate, and the gate agent walks you over to the huge pane of windows and says, "There's your airplane." And you look out on the tarmac, and there's 137,214 parts scattered all over the tarmac, and none of them are labeled, but it's all the parts. And the gate agent says, you can take your trip when you can put together that all those parts, you fill it with fuel, and you learn how to fly. That's starting a business. And a lot of people have already started one, and they're experiencing that craziness that goes with starting a business. There's another opportunity, which is to buy one, which means you find one that's cruising along at 10,000 feet. It's had the same pilot for the last 20 or 25 years. The pilot is old, tired, sick, and dying, probably hates her kids. And you slip into the cockpit next to this person who's been the pilot for the last 25 years, and you get him or her to co-pilot you for the next 3 or 4 months, and then hand you the controls, and they eject out of the plane. But you've got a plane that's already in the air. And so some business owners, when they think about growth, fail to think about the opportunity of potentially buying a business. Most people have had at least the glancing thought of, well, I wonder what I'm going to do with this thing when I'm ready to move on to the next thing, or just ready to move on. And that's called exiting a business. And buying and exiting are flip sides of the same coin. So what makes a business attractive to buy is what we should be doing in order to make our business attractive to exit, or make it exitable. What does that need to look like, so that if I do decide that I want to do something else, how can I maximize and optimize the return I'm going to get at the exit event? So that's how to buy or exit. It's August 5 through 8. It will be offered live, meaning in class in Austin, and on Zoom. So there'll be a way for you to get what you need. Buy or exit a business is about the investor hat. The 4-day MBA, which is coming up September 24 through 27, the 4-day MBA is about the owner hat. What are the skills and tools that I need in order to be an effective owner, which are different than the skills I need to be an effective investor, which are different from the skills that I need to be an effective operator. So from an owner's perspective, how do I need to think about my business so that I'm building a machine that fully utilizes leverage and structure? I've got A players, I've got a culture. I'm not losing customers as fast as I'm adding them. How do I look at the dashboards or the financial report cards that I'm getting and make sense out of them? The most common question I get asked when I speak around the world, the most common question I get asked is, Keith, how do I grow my business and make more money? If you have that question, then that's a owner question, and I can teach you the owner skills and tools, and I'll do that over 4 days in the 4-day MBA. The whole point of getting an MBA, unless you're going to go to Wall Street, the whole point of getting an MBA is to learn how to grow it, to learn how to run it, to learn how to have it make more money. Well, if you're struggling with that, 4-day MBA is perfect for you. The third course is coming up October 29 and 30. By the way, all these are offered live and via Zoom, virtual. So the third course is called Plan or Get Slaughtered. And this is an opportunity for you. It's 2 days. It's October 29 and 30. It's 2 days in which it's an opportunity for you and your team, if you want, to join me by taking 2 days out of your normal schedule and begin the process of identifying and prioritizing major opportunities that are available for your business, and then creating a yellow brick road or an executable plan around those priorities to achieve those outcomes. So it's a way to step out of your business for 2 days and be incredibly thoughtful with the work that we'll do together, so that when you leave that 2 days, you've got the beginning. It's more than a seed, but it's not a full-grown tree. You've got the beginning of a great plan for next year, and it's offered October 29 and 30. So the three things I teach to the general public are how to buy or exit a business. That's August 5 through 8. The 4-day MBA, September 24 through 27. Karl, I think you've taken that one. And then Plan or Get Slaughtered, which is October 29 and 30. So thank you for letting me talk about those.
Beautiful. And if you guys want the beautiful Rita, if you email events@keystothevault.com, Rita, who's been incredibly helpful for me, she will look after you and you will be laughing. So with that, Keith, on behalf of everybody here, I just want to say a big thank you. You are a superstar. You just give. But again, listen to hours and hours of your content. Can't begin to tell you how much I've learned from you, and I've told you that, and absolutely fact. So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for giving to our audience, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. So thank you so much, the man, the myth, the legend, Keith Cunningham. Thanks, boss.
It has truly been an honor. Thank you, Karl, very much.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.